Often titled the father of comedy, Aristophanes is the oldest surviving comedic playwright. As profound as vulgar, his plays reveal ancient Athenian values, ideology, and controversies. Jeering at and referencing sex, gender, religion, politicians, history, other playwrights, and morality, he is now, perhaps, even more irreverent and funny than ever before.
Lysistrata. This play begins with the main character and her partner, both women, Lysistrata and Calenus, waiting for more women to show up to the meeting Lysistrata has scheduled. It is important to know that Lysistrata's name, if literally translated, would mean something like, disbander of armies. This daring heroine complains that women are late for the important affair that she has scheduled. Her companion asks just how important is the affair, and Lysistrata answers,
It's huge.
And weighty?
It's so big and so weighty.
Then why aren't they all here?
Oh, it's not that. If it were, there would be a stampede. No, it's something that pricks me as hard as a shaft. And keeps me from sleeping, though I tease it night after night.
By now, the poor thing must be floppy.
It collapsed, leaving us alone to save Greece.
Subsequently, the two women discuss how they might enhance the pressure or frustration they will unleash upon men. They speak, for example, of wearing revealing, perhaps even see-through, clothing. The plan is, of course, to sexually boycott men until they agree to make peace, at least that is part of the plan. When the Spartan woman arrives, they have the following noteworthy exchange.
Good morning, Lampedo, my Spartan darling. How luscious you look. Quite stunning. Such clear skin and that firm body. Why, you could strangle a bull.
By Castor and Pollux, that I could. It's the work I do in the gym. Weights, jump kicking and bumping my tail.
My, what marvelous tits.
Hey, lovey, you feeling me up for sacrifice?
Remember, the Spartan women were not only allowed, but perhaps forced, to exercise like the men. In fact, the Greeks had something similar to a female Olympics. It was called the Herae, in honor of Hera, the queen of the gods. When discussing the plan, the women are reluctant, and they begin complaining about the difficulty. The following very noteworthy remark ensues.
What's more, there's not the shadow of a lover left for us. And since the Miletus crisis, not a dildo in the offing. That at least would be better than nothing.
It turns out that the main industry or export of Miletus, the city in present-day Turkey, was sex tools or toys. Therefore, after the Milesians abandoned the Athenian alliance, there was a dildo shortage. The women complained profusely, most agreeing that they could not live without sex, the penis, or even sleep without an erection by their bedside. In the end, Lysistrata convinces them in the following passage.
By Demeter and Persephone, absolutely. Imagine it, us lolling around all tarred up. Our pussies sweet little triangles neatly plucked. And we float past them in our see-throughs. And our men get stiff as rods and want to screw. But we elude them and hold ourselves aloof. Why, they'll sue for peace real quick. We'd just have to take dildos to bed.
Substitutes are so disappointing. Anyway, what if they drag us into the bedroom by brute force?
Hang on to the door.
What if they hit us?
Then give in but start sulking. Men don't enjoy sex by force. And you can get at them by other means.
Then the second part of the plan is revealed. It is argued that the Athenians will not agree to peace as long as they can continue to make money from the war, thus the older women, says Lysistrata, are already on their way to capture the Athenian treasury in the Acropolis. So, the women make a vow and drink from a large cup as to bind their agreement. After the women from the other cities leave, a conflict arises as the men of Athens attempt to retake the Acropolis. The women defend themselves by merely throwing water on the men. This is supposed to humiliate them. All the while they showcase their wit as they insult and mock the attacking men. At one moment a woman pretends to her husband that she cannot satisfy him because she is honoring Adonis. This was the mythic most handsome and attractive of men. Some women did have the habit of holding ceremonies to this deity, but in this case the women are simply using him as an excuse to not sleep with their husbands. A magistrate organizes a siege of the Acropolis. Aiming to insult the women, this character accidentally self-derides. I found particularly funny the following passage as he complains of how accommodating and supposedly lenient men are.
We go into a jeweler's and say something like, "Goldsmith, you know that necklace you made my wife? She was dancing and the prong slipped out of its groove. I have to go to Salamis, so do you think you could come over one night and stick the prong inside the slit?" Or a husband tells a cobbler, a young jock with a strapping cock, "Hey, cobbler, my wife's sandal cord is pinching her and making her sore, do you think you could come sometime after luncheon, I mean, could you stretch her shoe?"
The men, of course, fail to take the Acropolis and begin growing desperate. Lysistrata proves herself to be a matchless military leader. Speaking to the magistrate, she makes the point that women are already the ones in charge of the household finances, therefore, they would be better at managing the city. She also complains that they are not allowed to speak up about military affairs. Likewise, she makes an analogy with women's work, such as spindling, to argue that they would be better strategists and better at unraveling the diplomatic issues that trouble the Greeks. A man then makes a reference to Artemisia. She was the famous warrior queen from Halicarnassus that Herodotus describes.
We men cannot give these women as much as a finger. Soon they will grow too strong, they will be building a fleet and launching ships as fiercely as Artemisia. We will be finished once they become equestrian. No one can ride a wild horse like a woman. They never slip off no matter how hard the ride is. Witness the Amazons in the paintings of Mycon, astride their chargers beating all men in their path.
Eventually it happens that, as Lysistrata explains,
The issue I'll know further, duck. We have to fuck.
Holy Zeus.
It's no use calling Zeus. That is the reality. I can't control them anymore. They're running off every which way to their men. They're inventing every kind of pretext to go home.
There are several laughs as various women come up with jocular excuses to leave their assigned posts, all desperate for sex, but Lysistrata does not let any leave. Afterwards, the husband of one of the women shows up, with an erection, begging her to service him. From this point on all men have incapacitating erections. Lysistrata tells the man's wife, Myrrhine, to play, tempt and ultimately, disappoint the man. Repeatedly, this woman goes to the man, gets ready for sex, and then finds an excuse to leave. Finally, a truce is offered. One of the male heralds announces the famous proverb,
"We can't live with them. And we can't live without them."
Up to this point there has been two choruses, one of men and one of women, but now they join into one. Delegates from both Athens and Sparta arrive, both with erections. Lysistrata then calls forth the goddess Reconciliation. This one is divinely beautiful and completely naked. The delegates manifest their sexual frustration. Lysistrata then reprimands both cities equally.
The Spartans suffered an earthquake, needed rescue against the rebellion. Athens answered with 4,000 soldiers. Do you really want to repay this kindness by plunging Athens in disaster?
And she says to the Athenians,
How when you were enslaved, the Spartans came in force to slew the foreign mercenaries. In that day their one concern was to help expel the tyrant, so you could again be free, and to wear the luxury of liberty, instead of the tatters of slavery.
Of course, the prior are references to historical events. The first being how Athens helped Sparta quell a massive slave revolt. The second how Sparta helped Athens overthrow a tyrant. In the end, the delegates agree to a peace. Lysistrata lets them come up and fulfill their desires with reconciliation. Apparently, they touch even her private areas. A joke is made wherein the two delegates partition the various holes of the goddess as they get ready for a threesome. The Spartan chooses the asshole, the Athenian the vagina. It seems it was a stereotype that Spartans preferred the asshole. In the end, a reference is made to Helen from the Iliad. It is relevant to know that the Spartans did not agree with the official version in which Helen left Menelaus, the king of Sparta, willingly. Rather, they would claim that she was stolen and raped by Paris, instead of seduced. In the next play, the women will completely take over Athens and force all men to service them on demand. Don't miss it. Now, although this play did not yield me any aphorisms, I nonetheless gift you two that are fitting.
Far from glory, female beauty has thus far been but as a divinely ordained stamp of slavery.
Few have ever had aching hearts, most have only had wounded pride.
If you enjoy or gain from my aphorisms, know that I have thousands. I will be writing books with short thematic essays composed out of aphorisms. These essays are profound and intriguing yet easy to read. For very cheap copies, look up Protagonist Pause in the Amazon website. I repeat, Protagonist Pause, that's my name.